My name is Michael. I'm 22 years old and I am in my second year of college. This is a story when I was in my first year of college. It's a quite a long one, and it will contain topics of violence and abuse. If you can't handle this type of topics in a story, so this is not the one for you to be listening. I'm just warning you that. Like I said, this took place during my first year of college. At the time, I was living with my aunt and uncle, and I actually even had a part-time job at the local 7-Eleven. I've been working there shortly after when I started my first year of college. I even actually started to get to know one particular part-timer named Victoria. She and I went to the same college, but even in the same year. We had only a couple of top conversations, but one particular evening, she asked me if I wanted to go out with her, and I was shocked. Because, the reason is why I was shocked is that I never had been with any girl in a relationship before or never been on dates. Because ever since I started college and even finished high school, I was quite of an insulated person. You may understand the reason why. But long story short, I said yes. We started being dating for ever since. But we spent a lot of time together either at her apartment or at a cafe at the college. She had seen me only being by myself when I was at college, like either in the school library or on the campus, reading or just studying. Every time when I had some other people around me, I always left. She saw that I wasn't socializing with anyone. She did ask me a couple of times if I wanted to spend time or even meet some of her friends. But I always said no or declined the offer. I mean, we were only been dating for at least about at this time a couple of months. I was very much in love with Victoria. I mean, she was beautiful. She was a blonde, blue-eyed girl, and she was like an angel. In myself, I was slim, brown hair, brown-eyed guy, and I was surprised even to this moment that how she even felt any interest in one insulated guy. A guy who was completely insulated himself from other group of people. To be honest, she was the only other person other than teachers that I talked to. I didn't even had any friends at the college. I was pretty much either spent time at the college or when when my class was over for the day, I went back home to my aunt and uncle. Even when I was at home, they were usually at work and I was home alone. But I'm just glad that I had Victoria in my life. But it all eventually changed when all happened. But I should mention this, I was not expecting this. I mean, one day, Victoria actually had invited me to her apartment. And like I said earlier, I had spent time with her in her apartment before. So this was not an unrare, or this wasn't like the first time, or I wasn't scared to be there. Since she lived in a small apartment just outside of campus. When I got there, it was like in the early afternoon. I believe it was around 1 or 2 p.m. This was on like a Saturday. So I knocked on the door. She usually opened the door after less than a minute. But I knocked and knocked and knocked. But there was no answer. And I tried to see if the door was unlocked or not. If it was locked, then I thought maybe she wasn't back yet. Sometimes she tells me to come over, but she is not there, and I thought like maybe she's just out for a small errand, and she used to send me a text message about that she would be back in a few minutes. So I watched my phone, I looked at my phone, but no text messages or that. So I tried the door and it was unlocked. I slowly opened the door. I called out, Victoria, are you home? But no answer. But as I walked in, I saw Victoria on the floor and she was tied up. I was horrified. I started running in towards the living room, but I was tackled and pushed to the floor by two masked people. They told me to be quiet. You be quiet. I saw a third person holding a knife, and this individual was kneeling down next to Victoria. When I saw the knife, I quickly freezes up and stopped resisting. As the two other people were about to tell me, get the duct tape so we can tie some up, tie him up. But as I was doing that, they saw me start shaking. I was I was shaking of fear. And they looked at my face and I was like, please, don't hurt me. I promise to be nice. And they even noticed that I was so ghostly white, pale in my face. Victoria was like, she wakes up after being told about my reaction. Hey, Victoria, is this supposed to happen? What? She said, and looked up and saw me sitting there on the floor, so pale white if I have seen a ghost. I quickly turned around and saw that she was okay, and with all that happened, I I literally threw up of all this reaction. I was so horrified. I threw up a lot at the floor, and all at the last I heard, he literally threw up. Get together, hold on. But next, I passed out. After about 15 minutes, I woke up on the couch with Victoria next to me. She was sitting on her knees, hoping that I was okay. And I saw these masked people sitting next to on the floor next to the table. I asked Victoria, and Victoria asked me how I was feeling. I told her that I was fine. I just was shocked, and I even asked her, what's going on? And who are these people? And as they removed the mask, I immediately recognized the three people. It was Colin, Simon, and Emily. They were actually Victoria's friends. They were around the same age as us. And Victoria told me that they were her friends, and what was happening, that she told me that she wanted to introduce me to her friends, but every time I had been just insulated myself, and every time she tried to introduce herself, her friends to me, I declined off the offer to spend time with them, even get to know them. So she and her friends made a plan of a scenario in order me to scare me like in a prank. They knew me I was quite of a scary cat. They apologized for it and explained that they had in mind, but when they saw me this all happened, I then said, in this chaos of being so panic, I started to remember some things. When Victoria asked me what I did remember, what I explained to them, it was something that I hadn't even told other people except my aunt and uncle, and how they reacted this way, and why I hadn't even told Victoria that I somehow suppressed these memories after all this time. I told them about something that I hadn't told anyone except my aunt and uncle. I said, this is, I was abused by my mom and dad, both physical and mentally, from when I was 7 to 16. Hearing this made them all horrified. And they was just shocked. And I said, both my parents, they treat me such badly. Even my mom said, she said, I wish that you were never born. And they put me in a closet all night without no food. They locked us so that I couldn't get out, and they beat me senselessly. I was even in school at the time. They either beat me with a belt or even kicked me for several times, and I had bruises on my body, and I was horrified. They beat me so badly, and like they kicked me, and in fact, they even my own mom chased me around in the house with a freaking with a kitchen knife. And when I mentioned that detail, which since Emily was holding a plastic toy knife against Victoria's head during a prank to scare me, it was that triggered my suppressed memory of my childhood abuse. Victoria's like, I didn't know. And even Colin, Simon, Emily, they were like, we, we had no idea about this. Please forgive us. We have no idea all this happened. I told her it was fine. But I even said, but then they asked, how did this happen? And what else? I mean, I had never even had any idea. I told them, since this happened, it went on for 9 years. They either slapped me, kicked me. I even mentioned my own mom tried to even to drown me in the kitchen, like holding my head down in the sink, and I nearly blacked out. And I thought maybe my dad would help me, but he just told me to be quiet and not cry because of what my mom died and tried to do. I was horrified, and they told me if I tried to even warn anyone of any of this abuse, they would kill me. And I took that quite seriously. So I just nodded and stopped crying, but I couldn't even last it much longer. I thought one day soon enough they would eventually kill me. And it actually did came close multiple times. I told Victoria and the others that even when I was 10, my own dad literally beat me senselessly because I just asked if I could have a birthday cake. But my parents were like, we don't celebrate our unwanted child's birthday. You don't mean anything to us. I was not even in school. My parents kept me insulated in their home, so no one even knew about my existence except my aunt and uncle, who even had came over. But but every time when they had any guests or friends or even other relatives, they acted the most friendliest parents that ever, the most loveliest. But every time otherwise, they treat me like as trash. They beat me. They even used cigarette burns on my arms and legs, and even they even put months time my hand in a boiling water on the stove because I was misbehaving because anything. I was horrified, but I managed to at least they taught me in order to read or something, or I don't even remember how that, but I was horrified. And they did that for 9 years since until I was 16. Then Colin asked, how did you even get away from your parents? I didn't, well, no one didn't even know about this. I just left, middle of the night, shortly after my 16th birthday, even though they didn't even celebrate it. But I remember the day when I was born, so I kind of celebrated to myself in silence. I I just didn't even pay the, I only had just one simple bed and nothing else in my own room. I didn't even have toys to play with. I wasn't even allowed to just have no toys. I even had, well, I wasn't even allowed to watch TV except when we had family or friends over, just pretend I was a normal, happy family. But I just all I did was just grab my some clothes and a backpack that I managed to find, and just took off from the window. Since my room was in the at the ground level, just maybe 3 feet above the ground, and I just ran out of the street and out. But where did you go? Asked Simon. To my aunt and uncle. Did you even know where they lived? Yes, they live in the same town as the same as they know now, the same house. I've been there maybe just a few times before, but I remember, and they even told me that I'm always welcome to that place. They even told me the address, and and this was probably like 2 or 3 in the morning when I came to their house and banged on the door. Like, I mean, I was like very surprised that any of that happened. They were like my uncle Jacob opened the door really half asleep, like, and he saw me like, Michael, what are you doing here? It's middle of the night. And he saw me crying, and I was barefoot, and this was middle of the winter. What? Middle of winter? Said Simon. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I barely have anything at all. And he let me in, and at the time my aunt Laura actually walked up, and they took me to the kitchen and gave me some warm to drink, and I told them what happened and what has been happening for the several years. I even showed them my old bruises, that was current and the new one I had blue marks or blue. I mean, my bruises. I even just showed them my burn marks from cigarettes, and both my aunt started crying. My uncle, he was livid. He was actually my mom's younger brother, so he couldn't believe his own sister would abuse her own son for no damn reason. I can't even believe it that your own parents would even do this, said Victoria. Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that. I mean, I was ever since I was so young, and until I was even when I was in my early teens, I thought that this was a complete normal reaction, like for how families would treat each other. I wasn't even allowed outside at all. Sometimes they even kept me outside in the middle of the winter, just barefoot, t-shirt and boxers, nothing else. Even as a kid, even when I was from 8 to almost 12, sometimes they let me in if I had apologized for what I did. If I didn't, they let me stay out there the whole night, even to like maybe at 6 or 7 in the morning. That's inhumane, said Emilia, crying. How dare they even treat you like that? You are a person, not a pet, or even an object. I agreed, said Colin. But what happened then? Well, after I told my aunt and uncle what happened, they they immediately called the police, had them come over, and they interviewed me, took photos of my injuries, and took me to the doctor to confirm all this. They even found several broken, sprinted, like very old broken ribs and all that, and even they both my parents was arrested, of course, and I hadn't even seen or heard them since the trial. And I was glad that I was out of this abuse. It was so long. I was expecting they would eventually kill me because they would even get tired of me or just throw me out or something. But after all this what happened, my both my aunt and uncle decided to legally adopt me as their son, and I have been living with them since. In fact, even when I was 16, I'm still considered them as my real parents. other than my biological parents. They even tried to reach out to me by letters, try to tell me to have my statement revoked, to tell them, to tell my aunt and uncle and the police and everyone that I was lying through the whole thing, that I injured myself, and that they were the good parents, and they tried to just try to teach me not to be doing this, that I was misbehaving, I was like the devil, and I couldn't even believe it. Yeah, I mean, do you know anything about your parents now, though? Asked Victoria. Well, from what I'm told from my uncle, they're out now from jail, and they tried to reach out to me a couple of times, but I just ignored the letters. But you know. But just before I started my college, my mom, um, Kelly, and my dad, Robert, which I prefer to call them by their first name, not call them mom and dad. They literally came over to my aunt and uncle's home. They were both home at the time. Thank goodness for that. They demanded I will come home with them to live with them, since they actually have the rights over me and I don't have any certain rights. That I've been lying, and that they certain should punish me because I've been lying to the court of being about this supposed abuse never happened. That my uncle said this is abuse if you're saying punish. And he said, he isn't your son anymore. He's our legal adopted. And they said that if we go to court and have this adoption being just removed, so that they will have the legal rights to be my parents again. But I told them firmly, you like, I told them, you two can go straight to hell because of what you did. I don't even care anymore. If you even try to do this, I will not even hesitate to push you off the stairs because of what you did to me. And I locked the door behind me after closing it. I called after the police, and they even came over to my uncle aunt's house, because they were still there banging, demanded to get inside to see me. They were arrested again. And this time I had a restraining order against my parents, my, well, former parents, for life. That was the last time I even saw this. And this was shortly before I even started college. Ever since then, after then I was finished telling my story. Colin, Simon, Emily, and Victoria just sat there all crying. And just, once again, they apologized for what they did, and that they didn't know. I told them that nothing is okay. They couldn't have even had known that I was safe, and that my aunt and uncle did took care of me, and I have Victoria by my side as support. Which she also was crying but smiled, and I said, Victoria, I can understand you're a true angel, but you shouldn't may not have done this in order to get me to scare me, but I kinda glad you did. Ever since then, I actually started to get to know Colin, Simon, and Emily a bit more, and we started actually hanging out a lot more as friends, and eventually I even considered Colin and Simon as my true best friend, and that Emily the same thing. I even jokingly said, well, if me and Victoria were to get married, I would sure take Colin as my best man and Simon as my second best man, and Emily will be your bride, my maid of honor. Which Victoria blushed and said, "Hey, we are just still in college." But I'm just happy to have found someone I really care about. Even it have my, I can almost admit that I had almost forgotten about my childhood abuse, how my parents treated me, kicking me, slapped me, trying to drown me, burn me, and you name it. It's this was one of the most. Even though it still has some scars of my abuse, but some of those scars was deeper emotionally, mentally, and physical, but mostly mentally. It was a thanks to Victoria and her friends that actually managed me to break out of my insulated lifestyle. Even though they're only my friends that I spent time with at the college. But one day I hope to be able to break out this insulated circle to embrace more friends. But it might take more time. But it is thanks to Victoria and her friends who had able to do this. I know that my former parents are still out there, but they had even tried to reach out to me, and I'm glad for that because if they do, I would not hesitate to call the police on them after that because if they do somehow reach out to me or even by person or something, they violate my restraining order. So to my former parents, like I said, to my former parents, stay away from me. I would not want it to meet you ever again. And to my aunt and uncle, my new mom and dad, thank you for taking me in, adopt me, care about me. You are true parents. You are true people. And for Victoria and her friends, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I may have never been told this story to anyone. And especially Victoria, I would have never been such happy with anyone than other way with you. So once again to my old parents, stay the way from me. I don't want to meet you ever, ever again.